Hey guys. So I guess this is a moment of doing a diary of a sensitive kid. And yet, I don't know, there's things. What do I want to share today? Well, first off, happy Monday. It's Monday. I also want to be like, you got a case of the Mondays right now, which definitely is there. It's there. But right now, the world, and I speak of the world because I'm going to speak of my world. My world. The reason why I say my is it takes ownership for myself, that I'm not projecting onto others. My world is our world, so it's not a selfish condition, but it's the world that I live in, what I see and what I perceive. And I'm going to honor that because it is a gift. This sense of the world is very divided, and it's very divided for a reason because everyone has their own individual layers that they are working through. And it has to do with what I would refer to as the Trinity. So we have the mind, the body, and the soul and or the spirit. Okay. So each of them houses, right, its own experience that we might refer to as separation before unity. But each of it has its own experience. And the division is in which polarity and contrast, right? So when I speak of polarity, I speak of dualism, I speak of right and wrong, good and bad. And the contrast is in the amplifying of the energy or the emotions or the awareness. And it feels like as everyone that I'm aware of is in their own individual processes, which means everyone's just processing their own shadows, their own experience, their own journey, that there is a stark contrast within that experience, and as a result can feel very, very, very either a very I can feel very alone, or feel like I don't know where I fit in, or I don't know where I belong, because a lot of this has been that, first off, right, a part of being a sensitive, being an empath, and being all these things that's been a part of my human awakening had been that in the past experiences, when I speak past life, if I stood on my own 2 feet, I would have been killed, exiled, martyred, right? Abused, taken advantage of, right? So it very much so housed in a lone wolf frequency. But now is recognizing is the time to stand on our own 2 feet as we are, which is to reserve our individuality, right? Who we are outside of collective experiences, to reserve our autonomy, which gives us an opportunity to be self-governing, but also to return to feel safe being just as we are on planet Earth, walking on our own 2 feet. Not to say that we don't fit in somewhere, but the identity of tribe, how we fit within the tribe, and all that stuff is dismantling. And all of that not feeling a part of is remembering the aloneness or the loneliness from within that, and remembering self-care and self-love through that experience. But as a result, right now is kind of bringing in a little bit of an underlying kind of like depression. And that underlying depression is asking for us to just dig a little deeper. But even myself have been tired of picking at scabs. Here's why. I've kind of essentially walked away from a situation in which I had to stop seeing myself as wounded, which means that there was nothing really to quote unquote heal from within myself. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a physical experience and an emotional realm that has an experience through this density of remembrance as well. So this underlying malaise is a part of that separation. It's a part of that, like, can you self-love when no one agrees with you? Can you self-love when no one else's opinion complements yours? Can you feel okay being as you are when no one's giving you new validation or confirmation? Which means that, can you feel safe just as you are outside of the opinions of others? And that's one layer. The other layer has to do with myself right now, having to do with the rainbow itself. So the rainbow, not speaking of frequency and of energy, but another layer ideology in regards to the rainbow, which is the contrast, the difference between each ray of hope that aligns back to something that is human unity or has commonality. So a part of that commonality is the human experience, and that human experience exists of mind, beliefs, and thoughts, correlating emotions to those beliefs, triggers in the day-to-day world, and living life just as it is. And yes, there are theories, theologies, philosophies that are from within that space. There's cultures, right? There's ethnicities, there's morality, there's so much built into the human compass at an individual level. But each ray or each aspect or each human, right? Whether it's like multiple cultures, multiple philosophies, multiple anything coming together has a common goal. That's to live a human life. Each one having its motivation over why we're here. Whether this is purpose, whether this is agendas, right? Some people do have agendas. Not all agendas are bad. But also, what our ideal life is. Each one a part of the same mineral makeup that is the human experience. All having a common goal to live a life as a human. And yet so much discord and divide. And yet beauty from within that space. Kind of a strange experience to be within, to see. I know for myself in my local area, I see how many cultures exist, and it's really beautiful. I haven't quite, I'm still very new to the area, so I haven't seen it all yet. But with seeing all the cultures also brings in all of the fears, the cultural fears. Right? And it's because I recognize that there's a portion of myself within this journey that has witnessed a lot of people being mad at one another. Mad about the guy at the podium. Mad about the woman who's creating something of herself. Right? Mad at the man with money. Mad at the man that looks this way. Mad at the woman that looks this way. Mad at the opinion. Mad at the stereotype. Mad at the system. Mad at the world. And then, of course, too, is that in my own journey as being a human, and a soul and a starseed and all these things, is that I really don't have a lot of belief system patterning that feels safe in the energy of anger or around others with anger. Simply put, it's because I've seen what's occurred throughout my own life and histories over what happens when anger, indifference, contrasts of opinions occur, and how we can react from anger and what it does. Whether it's divided families, it's torn relationships, it's fragmented souls, it's created wars, it's created nuclear bombs. All of this recognizing right now, it can feel like an uncomfortable place when you feel like the world is out to get you, when the world is blaming you, and or when you've been the scapegoat at some level of your journey. Which is why last night I posted the song Scapegoat by Atmosphere, and I was listening to it. I was like, dang, right? 1997, that song came out. So it's been 28 years that the song has been around, and not a lot has changed, which is interesting when we look at human evolution. 28 years, and we still run a lot of the same blame narrative. Blame the nicotine, blame the medicine, blame the woman, blame the coffee pot, blame the president, blame the military, blame the war, blame the United States, blame Africa, blame Canada, right? Blame mom, blame dad. And a lot of this bypassing, in my own opinion, bypassing a conscientious reminder over what's occurring from within and the uncomfortability, and also to a part of the cause. And that cause is that the moment that the gavel hit, right? The moment that the thing happened, and what occurred in that ripple that affected all of us at some level. Like the moment we hit the red button, right? The moment the trigger switched, the moment the light turned on, the moment we shared, the moment we spoke, the moment the argument occurred, the moment the violence broke out, the moment that action was taken, and what happened and rippled out as a part of that action. So, what comes forward for myself is a feeling again of being kind of like unsafe, unwanted, all of that abandonment stuff. And within that is going, oh yeah, Corey, another reality check. Go within, give yourself some self-love, right? And recognize that war is not fun to face. Contrast, resistance, divide is not fun, especially when you can feel what happens as a result of that, such as disagreements, right? So, so, this version of Diary of a Sensitive Kid is kind of feeling a little bit like I know I got to process this emotion, but it's also something that's kind of hard to face because of how much it feels like life has to be put on hold to process emotions. And here's why. When we don't face what's coming up from within us, even at the micro level, there's going to be a point in time where we do have to face it. And it's a part of what I would refer to and what I know of through my own energy levels as the causal body. And that causal body, a lot has to do with our own Akash, which is our day-to-day learning. And the only way we get through that is by living life, which means we don't hide or silo or isolate. And right now is kind of like, how do we create a sense of comfort in uncomfortable times when power dynamics are working through their distorted layers over what that is? At a human level, at a financial level, at a spiritual soul and oversoul level, but also too at a personal level in what our personal power and empowerment is. I know that sometimes when my power comes online, it's the thing that shakes my body. It's the thing that stirs things loose. And it's at the time the thing that feels like an earthquake, which is interesting because where I live out in California, I'm right next to an active fault line. A big active fault line that actually shook awake a few years ago. And that's part of, what occurred on my travel and my route down here, which is interesting. I'm going to go into those details a little bit. Was on my way down here, I stopped by Shasta. And when we were pulling up to, like when we were on the freeway driving up to Shasta, I saw a giant light ship just blast out of Shasta. And I felt the presence come through. So I knew that we were picking up a ship, picking up a team to move with. It's just me and my dad, so there's nothing really big happening. And I knew I was moving through some kind of some loops. I was moving through some doorways, and that presence followed me. And that night, something within said, Corey, crack open your grid work. And I cracked open my grid work because I had to heal some galactic stuff that was going on. And that's when the dragon showed up. The dragon showed up through this fault line. And it was a reminder of the sensitivity of when that dragon line wakes up, what happens. And it's a part of the experience of what the fault line in California represents and all the earthquakes that have occurred. And so there was two big ones that hit out here on July 3rd and July 4th of 2019 in Ridgecrest, California. And those two completely dismantled an air naval base out here. Right? So we saw that dragon line itself shook awake, that fault line cracking open, dismantled an entire base, multi-millions of dollars, right, of base. And as a result, big changes occurred, right? So when I heard about this dragon, this is the same reminder of what that power is. And that there is a sense of power from within all of us to deconstruct and a power to create. There's the self-empowerment and the willpower to keep going, the power to stand up for ourselves, the power to be confident, the power to share our truth, the power to love, the power to carry onward, the power to stand in our authenticity. But also there's that power that's dismantled usurped power. There's power that's brought balance to an imbalanced time. There's the power of the sun, right? That's blasting photonic light at planet Earth. And how much we feel that, how much Gaia's core feels that, how many changes are occurring because of that same feeling. Right? And so as a result, there's so much here within power, and even like this human power where we've played the archetype of God here on planet Earth, and we wielded a weapon that wasn't here to help. It was here to slay and or dismantle quite quickly, to stop something that could be quite disastrous. And within that space is in which we took sacred geometry and used it, right? The dodecahedron and the nuclear weapon, for example. Right? We literally took a source-aligned etheric container and weaponized it. And how do you think our soul felt on that day that blast went off? So this is quite a process to be in regards to how to stand in our power, right? Without taking it out on others, especially if you're going through like the anger stuff, especially when, you know, the opinions are coming through, but also recognizing that right now, sometimes this alignment and authenticity is the thing that will break apart tribes and families, because the idea of the tribe, the family, and the collective is dismantling because everyone's finding their own way. And a part of that finding our own way is right now, I know for myself, doesn't feel like there's a lot of people around. Right? It feels like kind of like walking all alone. But within that space can be a temporary moment to just learn to listen a little deeper and to get to know ourselves and what this new light, new framework, or new aspect of reality is. Because and it's the other thing I recognize too is as the whistle blows, on the collective, right? So it does. The whistle still blows. The whistle's going to keep blowing. Is as the whistle blows, sometimes our minds change, our perspectives change, right? Our reality changes, the way we see life changes, and sometimes as this truth and whistle blows from outside of ourselves and it's not internally, sometimes we take that thing, we hang on to it, and we walk with it and we let it become an identity, we let it grow and fester until that might at some level have a dismantling effect. But either way, we as a human collective put ourselves in boxes. And we put ourselves in boxes because that's the way we identify, and there's nothing wrong with that. Back to the rainbow, whether you call yourself pink, green, yellow, blue, purple, red, burgundy, violet, ultraviolet. Each of them is a box and a framework, and sometimes a measurement. All of it because that's how we live out this human form and this human reality. And sometimes we put ourselves in boxes because it gives us a framework for life. It gives us a day-to-day routine. It gives us an instruction booklet. It tells us what to do. I mean, how can Corey be Corey if Corey doesn't know how to be Corey or what Corey is? How do I know to be a human if I don't have an instruction booklet that says go be a human? And here's what a human represents. And here's everything about a human. And so if you ask Corey right now, right, to go be a friend to someone, and he has no idea what that is, he's got to go out and learn it. And it's okay to learn that. Or, hey, Corey, right now you need to go be a guide. I have no idea how to be a guide. Well, we learn. We either pick up the instruction booklet and we learn from someone like a teacher, or we go out and live life and learn organically. So a part of this perception is that there are boxes that are getting in the way of one another because identities are clashing, because they're still built on framework, they're still built on opinions. They're not built on absolute truth, but we also still see a lot of the distortion. And unfortunately, at times when we as a human, we as a soul, as a spirit and body, see the distortion, we sometimes don't like it. And a part of our own internal justice is to do something about it, whether it's to talk about it, align with integrity. And I have a lot of people in my life that hold that sense of justice in their own journey, which means when something's imbalanced, they bring it into balance by being just as they are. And it's really beautiful. They neutralize a lot. They find a lot of themselves from within that, but they help to bring some sort of peace and equilibrium to a very disharmonic or discordant time, which means they're the harmony. They're the solfeggio tone, right? They're the tuning fork. And the tuning fork stands just as it is, as a pillar and as a beacon. And as we give it that little knock, there's a subtle realm of oscillation, which means frequencies are emitted. And it brings us back to a space of equilibrium in our journey. So as justice is also a game of up and down, ascension, descension, teeter-totter, and leverage and anchoring and balancing. This equilibrium and harmonic point is important for those who do that work. It brings harmony to a discordant world, which means that it brings 432 to the 440. And I am someone who still tunes my guitar to A440. Why? Because Western civilization told me to. Okay, so even my own guitar has been indoctrinated. I love you, guitar. Okay. I'm being silly. But a part of this is we're gifting ourselves an opportunity right now to just be okay just as we are, with an organic weave and an organic alignment. And I speak to that because I have many groups and people that I connect with when I'm ready to. And I've become very comfortable with what I refer to as relationship weaving. And this came up yesterday for someone. And weaving means that I'm never meant to just be in one place. I'm kind of like a wanderer. Go into one space and do what I need to do, and to the other space and kind of weave. I can weave through my own home. And sometimes it doesn't feel comfortable just being the single thread with no movement, no motion, no creation, and no direction. Because you're just like, well, I'm just, you know, it's like kind of being one of the Norns with nothing to do, right? because a lot of this is processing its time. It's just a lot. And sometimes we leave out of certain groups. It doesn't mean because you're doing anything wrong or right. It's just kind of the way our compass directs, right? No two people are meant to be on the same ship, the same journey, the same travel, the same corridor, the same experience at the same time sometimes. And it occurs. It's like when if life is like a subway, right? And we're on the metro, right? People come in and out. And there's something really greatly accepting about that right now, but also too that can bring up a lot, especially if we need to grieve or mourn the loss of a friend, of a parent, of a loved one, of a past experience, right? Or perhaps it's just that time on the journey where everyone's left the station. You're in the car, and you're just waiting for the next people to arrive, right? And that place isn't always forever. It doesn't have to be a permanent moment, but it's the trigger within that space and the feeling spaces that can create a sense of permanence if we don't know what to do when we're in there. So when you're all alone and you feel left out, or you're bored, or you feel unwelcomed, or you feel uninvited, what do you do from that space? Do you take it out on yourself? Do you take it out on others? Or do you learn to grow and to heal and to love, right? What that moment is teaching you. Do you allow that to be the moment that breaks you or the moment that assists you in being able to blossom? Okay. And it's because I know what it's like to be in that space. When things go silent, no one's around, and what am I left with? I'm left with me. And as you know, this lesson is closing up with being me. Am I okay with being where I'm at? Have I applied the toolkits that I've learned in my ascension and my awakening to take care of this child that's going through this experience? Do I have everything from within me to take care of that sensitive and lonely kid? Do I have everything from within me to tell me, hey, it's okay to feel uncomfortable in this world? Hey, you know what? It's okay to see someone and to be afraid that they're going to pull out a gun and murder you. Not to say it's an okay thing, right? Not to say like the act of violence is okay. I'm not going to agree with that. But the feeling state of what comes up when I'm working through my traumas in my day-to-day life is an okay thing. You want to know why? I'm healing. I'm growing. I'm taking care of myself. And a part of that healing is reconnecting to a sore spot in my energy, a sore spot in my body, a sore spot in my mind, and a sore spot in my conditioning. And I can be okay learning to give myself the salve to take care of what that experience is. Healing is reconnection. And it's not always connecting to that part of the rainbow that's puppy parts and sunshine. Sometimes I'm connecting to that contrasted part from within me that doesn't feel okay here on planet Earth. And I can be okay there. That's the place that I can love and I can reframe and I can redirect and I can allow it to become consciousness again. This aspect of me can bloom and blossom. It doesn't have to fracture, fragment, or break at that space. And if it needs it, it can ask for help as well. It can ask for help. So, it has to do with lone wolf and survivor syndrome, and we'll get there. But it's also important to recognize that our feelings are valid, our emotions, our feelings, our emotions are valid. What we think is important, what you say matters, what you do matters, how you take care of yourself matters. And if you are someone who takes care of others, that matters too. Either way, you matter. So for all of us that are sensitive kids that are on an awakening journey, the super empaths and all of those people, I wanted to pull an inner child oracle card for us. Perhaps that's fun. See what messages want to come forward for our inner child, because I think the inner child is is a really important place to go to in this experience, especially when it comes to things like bringing innocence back to our families, bringing a more humane part of our life back, because that's really important here. So the inner child oracle messages for the sensitive one within us. Oh, yeah, go inward. It is time to connect with your inner child. Well, what were we just talking about? Healing is reconnection. There's a reconnective exercise here. Go inward. Go inward. It is time to connect with your inner child. So the message right now is it is about taking that time to establish and to reestablish that connection with your inner child. And then how do you go about that? Is it with a journal? Is it talking to a friend? Is it taking that time to ask yourself some questions? So now that we see that it is time, right? That go window to go connect with your inner child, how do you do that? And that's where fun and imagination comes in. Because now it's about you being able to empower yourself to do that. So no one does it for you, right? To be able to learn to take care of that, to become your own resource, to become resourceful in this experience, to apply your own wisdom, to create your own solutions, to get back to the drawing board. Doesn't mean don't ask for help and do it all solo dolo. No, but right now it's time to do that connection, to go within and go, all right, little boy, little girl, little friend from within, right? Perhaps big friend from within, right? What do you need right now? Okay. I'm deeply sorry that I abandoned you through this experience, and and I recognize it's been kind of a troubled timeline to be within. I recognize, yeah, sometimes this world has not been a safe place, and you lived through some unsafe timelines, and you've seen some shit happen. You walk through catastrophe, you walk through trauma. Okay, I get it, and I know you want to run away and hide. What can I do for you right now, buddy? Right? How can I help you? How can I take care of you? How can I let you express your true nature? What do you need right now? How can how can we learn to get along again? Especially if there's a parent dynamic or a fracture, right? Mom and dad stuff, right? You can counsel your own inner child again. Hey buddy, I know you grew up kind of bored here on planet Earth, right? Well, what do you want to do to have fun today? Right? What do you want to eat? Right? And the thing that can happen here is that sometimes things get in the way. Work, right? I know about that one. Life, right? Relationships. Okay. All right. Perhaps it's go take your inner child to work day. Perhaps it's one of those things where there are moments in which you believed at some level, I have to leave my child at home because I got to go take care of life. I've got to go adults. I've got to go mourn. I've got to go grieve. I've got to go do that thing. Okay. Okay. How about your inner child can be a part of your everyday process? And it can actually have a say in what you do. It can have a say in what you share. It can have a say in your process. It too can have its seat at the table. So it's time to connect to that place. And it's time to allow it to have its voice, to have its journey, to have its motivations as well, to get to know what this dialogue is in this timeline, especially if you do have a child who has been divided through economic class, who's been divided through race, who's been divided through culture, who's been divided through income class. I think I mentioned that. Who's felt divided through tribe, who's been divided through family, and who's been divided through collective. Or perhaps the one who's been divided from war. There's a strong connection to the inner child that wants to be established, and it's the one that understands how powerful it can be as an adult and how soft and loving it can be within its play and within its innocence. And it's also an aspect of creation that's giving us an opportunity to remember our youthfulness again. Perhaps it's the one that doesn't want to let the old man in. Perhaps this is the one that doesn't want to let the teenager to run a riot. Or perhaps this is the one that doesn't want to persecute anymore, just wants to get along and have fun. But it can be terrified from the consequences of life, with guns and shadows and knives lurking, and fears trembling from within. Perhaps this is the thing that has to get used to it in its original skin, which is love. The child is housed somewhere. Where is it housed? It's housed in your body. It's housed in your mind. It's housed in your emotions, and it's housed in your spirit. So taking care of the child is also very much so a very well-rounded way of doing this, right? The mind of the child, right, which is the thoughts, the ideas, the beliefs, the emotions of the child that correlate and respond to that, the energy of the child and the soul of the child as well. All of this creating a unified experience, in my opinion, that gives you an opportunity to see the child in a very unique and well-rounded way. So we can take this space of imbalance and bring it into balance, whether this is through spirit, whether through this is through human, whether through this is through emotion, or it is through mind, which is part of the body with the human as well, is how do we create the harmonic from within us to understand the well-rounded and unified child who can live life here on planet Earth as that without having to define it or refine it to allow it to be just as it is, because it too has an organic process of remembrance, of love, of standing up, of connecting to, and of sharing and expressing its heart again with the world. So this is not the time to sequester or to tuck away the child. It's the time to bring it up, bring it forward, and bring it through and allow it to align with you organically in this journey. All right. So I love you guys. Much love and respect in all of you out there. Thank you for your likes, shares, and subscribes. The picture is out in nature. Maybe it's just one of those things to just go take a stroll out in nature, right? To kind of connect back to a space that has zero judgment, which is plants, animals, trees, and things. But also, too, is there is a time in which we have to face human life again. And many of us here on planet Earth during our day-to-day face human life. And if you don't, it's okay. Right? So a part of this is recognizing that that time for respite and play is important to rebuild the connection. But there's also this moment to go out and to be amongst the people as this as well, and to help that child to feel safe, right? During its moments of sensitivity, during its moments of being awakened, and as well as being softened in kind of a hardened world and in a hardened experience. What brings our inner child back to love? And that's my agenda. I do have an agenda. My agenda is to bring things back to a loving state of consciousness because it's important for me and I know it's important for others. Everyone might not agree with it, but I'm here to learn his love again. And I'm here to remind my child and your child, if you so choose, to love yourself a little bit more. But the inspiration to do this is built from within, not without. So to take action on this and to do this thing, it's in your hands. I love you guys. Much love and respect to all of you out there. Thank you again for your like, shares, and subscribes. Links in the description box. If you guys like a reading, go to foundersoflove.com. We got readings and sessions available. More will show up soon. Right now, we're still integrating, and we're going to get back to our laughter, to our play again. And thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to do this update. So that is Diary of a Sensitive Kid. And I'll see you guys soon. Namaste.